Hi everybody, CCF here again with another STORJ video. Now, one of the things you don't want to have to tackle in your first week as a STORJ node operator is a node migration, but unfortunately that's what I've had to do. I don't know if you are aware, but I had a PC down on the bottom here, very old Dell, with 128 gig of RAM in it, very overpowered for what was needed here, and I did have the foresight to purchase myself a rack mount PC, which is now in here, very low powered option, and pretty much after the first week I started to get memory problems on the old Dell PC that's down there, and it failed and it was rebooting, and so I had to make the snap decision to get everything off there as quick as I could onto this new node, and get things up and running again. Did take a little bit of hit with regards audit, which I'll show you in a moment, but it's up and running, it's stable. There are things going on, but I'm not going to discuss them in this video because I'm going to do another monthly update at the end of October as to how things are going, and we'll give you an update there. This is about the node migration, which didn't go entirely according to plan because there's very little documentation online, and it's not 100% accurate. But I'll tell you how I got around the problems that I hit, and let you know how it went repointing this new node at my NAS, because obviously there are various options open to you. If you've got a local hard drive in your node, you've got the option of taking the hard drive from your old node and putting it straight into your new node and configuring it that way, or you can copy the data across. For me, it was just a question of putting the ISCSI initiator onto the new node and repointing at my NAS.
Okay everybody, let's get into it. I don't want this to turn into a large video because nobody watches big videos anymore. It has to be TikTok style, so we're going to fly through it as quickly as we can, but there is a lot to cover, so bear with me. Now, if you go to the STORJ website, you can find articles on how to migrate a Windows GUI node from one location to another, although the documentation is very brief, as you will see. Not a lot covered in there. And we'll compare that to my slides because there's a lot more that has to go on. So what I'm going to be covering here is one type of migration. That is a Windows node to Windows node. And of course that is talking to my Netgear Ready NAS unit. It's not talking to a local hard drive with the data on it. Although I will discuss a few things around that if that is your setup. So what I've done here, I've got 3 tabs open. I've got this one with the original migration notes from STORJ. I've got one that reverts back to the original installation instructions if you're setting up a Windows node for the first time. And I've also got a link to the GitHub Releases section of all the software that STORJ produce. So let's make a start with the first slide then. So the first thing that you have to do is if you've set up your computer that is going to be your new node, obviously you've installed Windows on it, we've got that far, is you're going to need to synchronize a couple of folders from your old node onto that new node, and you're going to have to do this twice, and I'll explain why in a minute. So what you're going to need to do is basically set up a share on your new node over the whole of the C drive. That's how I did it. Just set a shared folder name up on the whole C drive so that you can access it from your existing node. All these PowerShell operations we're going to do in a moment are going to happen from your existing node. So we're going to synchronize 2 folders. One of them is identity and one of them is orders. Now obviously if you remember back to when you set up your Windows node, you'll remember setting up the identity. You'll remember that long process of waiting for the authorization token to be created. Well, that's what this is. We're going to copy all that over. Now, all these commands are run in an elevated PowerShell window, so make sure you can do that. And as I say, you're going to run these commands from your existing node with it having visibility to your new node. So if we look at the original commands that the STORJ documentation has given us, they are robocopy commands, and they are to look at your current storage node directory identity storage node directory on the existing PC, and then a command to copy all the contents of that to your new PC. So what I did is, obviously I didn't run this command as is. I created a share on my new PC, and I revised the robocopy command to this. So there are placeholders here for the username that you've installed your copy of Windows on, and obviously the name of your PC, and also the share name. So this robocopy command here is saying go to the existing storage node, and then I want you to copy everything to the new node in the same directory. And there is a /mir command on the end here. This is instructions to PowerShell of how it needs to carry over permissions, file properties, and all those sort of things to the new destination. So that's very important not to miss that off. So that first one is to copy the identity over. That is going to be relatively quick. You will see it won't take any time at all. And obviously you run this with your existing node running at this stage. What we're doing is we're just creating a base copy. The second command is for orders. Now this folder has a considerable amount of files in it, and it will take a lot longer. I think I've got the wrong original one off the STORJ website there, but this is the revised command. Once again, a robocopy command saying get everything from the orders and put it into another folder, not in the same location, because you won't have this same location yet because you've not installed Node software. So what you do is you put it in another folder on your new machine temporarily. And what I did at the end of the installation, before I started my node up, I copied the contents of this orders into the new orders directory that had been made. I don't know whether that was incorrect or not, but I did it anyway. So the orders one's going to take a little bit longer to do, but not that much longer. I think mine was running for probably, I don't know, 10-15 minutes, something like that. So once you've done that, you've got a base copy. And what a little later on, when we've turned off the Windows node, the old Windows node, we'll take the final copy. And what this is, it's to make sure that you can get most of the files off while your existing node's running. You've not stopped your existing node, so you're doing the majority of the copying whilst it's still running. So to minimize downtime, basically. So if we go on to the next slide, this is some things that you can do ahead of time. The first one is only for people who have got NAS-based data storage like me, and that's that I have to install the ISCSI Initiator program, and that's something I found on the internet to install that software, and it's a requirement of running the NAS. If you've not got a NAS-based system, you won't need to worry about that. But what you are going to have to worry about is one of these two options here. So if you've got a local hard drive in your existing STORJ node, you're going to want to do one of two things. You're going to want to either detach that drive when the node's turned off, when we get to it, and move that drive onto your new machine, and then in Disk Partition Manager make it available under a map drive name, ready for configuring with your node software. Or you've got a new hard drive in your new node and you want to copy the data over. It's entirely up to you how you go about that and how you deal with that. But they do provide in the documentation, which will be listed in the description, don't worry, it'll be there, a robocopy command so that you can copy your storage data from the existing node over to your new node. I don't obviously have to do that. I'm installing ISCSI Initiator, so that means I will detect my NAS on the new node, and then in Disk Partition Manager I'll go in there and assign a drive letter, which I will put into my configuration when I'm installing the node software. Okay, on to the next one. So this is, now we're at the point where we can turn our old node off. I used a PowerShell command to do that. I didn't stop the services. I didn't power down the node, because we've got to rerun operations to copy the final small changes of data over. So I use this command, net stop storage node. You'll see a little second it'll take to stop the storage node services on your existing node, and then you can rerun all of those operations that we had on phase 1. So that's these two commands here to get the last snapshot of the identity and the orders table. And obviously, if you're converting data over, because you're using a hard drive based system, you will redo that one as well. So it'll be 3 for you. So once you've done those final operations on your new node, and this is something that's important because you will get into difficulties if you don't do this, and they don't tell you anything about this in the STORJ documentation. I had to dig through various blogs to find why my node installation was failing, and it's because there's a file in your data directory in a subfolder called trash, and it's called .trash uses day directories indicator. Now, during the Windows GUI installation, it tries to create this file on your data directory. It's not expecting it to be there. So if you've already got it there, you have to get rid of it. And there are a number of ways you can do that. With elevated permissions, you can delete it. What I did was I renamed it because this was the first time I was doing anything like this, and I just wanted to make sure, I could put it back if I wanted to. So I just renamed it. But as long as you rename it with something that takes the original name away, I just put a _BAK for backup on the end. Then the node software can create it on installation and you won't get any issues. Okay, moving on then. The next thing you've got to do is your node's turned off now. You need to make your router aware of your new node. It will have a different IP address. So you need to go into your router configuration where you opened the port originally for 28967 against your existing node's IP address. And you need to either change that or delete that and put a new entry in for your IP address of your new machine. So to find the IP address of your new machine in Windows, you just go to a command window or a PowerShell window and type ipconfig, and you will see your local IP address listed there, and then that can be used in your router configuration. But you've probably already done it if you're considering a node migration, so you will know what you have to do on your router. But my router seemed to work differently to what was expected, and it would not allow me to have two separate IP addresses set up opening that very same port. So I had to physically delete my old one and put a brand new entry in for the new machine. Then on your new Windows node, as you will probably remember from the original installation you did, you opened up two new inbound firewall rules in Windows Firewall Setup. And this is all documented in STORJ documentation, but you have to open TCP/IP on one setting for 28967 and then also the UDP port as well. And that can't be forgotten. Right, so having got that far, there are a couple of things that need to be done on the new machine before we can attempt the node installation. So one of those is the installation of the dynamic update client tool. So you'll probably remember from your original installation that you've set up a dynamic data network name. I used no IP to do that, and you need to install a client tool that's available from their website or whatever provider you used onto your local machine so that it runs in the background and monitors your IP address for any changes and informs no IP or your provider. So that tool has to be run and configured. You'll need to put in your credentials that you set up with that provider and get it actively running on that machine. At that point, we're ready to attempt the installation of the Windows GUI, which, as I say, goes according to plan if you've removed that trash file. If you haven't, you get repeated failures. And I did, and had to do a lot of digging around to find out what was causing that. But there are a couple of things that can go wrong, and if you look in the log file for the installation, you will see it mentioned those items. But I didn't have any problems after renaming that trash file. It went through fine. And then what I did is, as soon as it had been installed, I didn't activate it and run it. I went to the releases folder. If I can just bring that up. On GitHub here, once again, description will be in the, the URL will be in the description. But what I did is I went and found not the release candidate that was latest, but the version of software. So like 1.14.6, for instance, I think I'm on at the moment. And then if you scroll down until you get the read more button and click that, and then scroll down all the way to the bottom until you get the assets, somewhere on here is a zip file with the node stuff software for Windows. Where are we? Storage node, Windows. I think it's that one. Yeah, well, we'll have a look at that. I believe it's this. And what you do is you just, as soon as it arrives, it should be here any minute. There we go. You just expand and extract that and then copy the file that's in it. And this is the updated STORJ Node executable. And with the node turned off, you can copy that and replace it for the one that has just been installed on your STORJ node. Now, I know what you're probably saying. Well, there's an updater program that does all this for you. It seems to be very far behind. It's not racing to get you onto the latest release at all. So I found keeping it up to date manually is better. There are still a lot of bugs being fixed, as you can see. You know, I mean, all these things are fixes for problems, you know, or enhancements. You may want to pick those up. So, you know, actively keep a look at this GitHub link and, you know, update your software when there's a stable release on there. So once that's done, and you've got through the installation, you've not had any problems with the trash file. If you've had problems during the installation, the recommendations are it hasn't completed, so you can't uninstall it as an application. But what you can do is remove the storj folder that it's created, so that it has no reference to that at all, and try it again. I did have a few other problems. The V3 storage service, so there are two services that start on the Windows machine. There's the V3 storage service, and then there's the updater service. The V3 storage service, when I was rebooting the machine, wasn't auto-starting. And it's because you need to go into the properties for that service in the service manager and make sure you've got log on switched on for allow services to interact with the desktop checked. Once you've done that, you reboot the machine, that service will always start, and you know, when you fire your browser up to see the node software, it will be working. I did find the event viewer on the machine very handy. If you go in, look in the system or the application entries in there, there could be either critical or errors in there relating to the installation problems you've had. I did have one more major issue in that my NAS file system, because of the multiple interruptions I'd had to it, some which were unplanned because the new PC I was using locked up and I had to reboot the machine, corrupted my file system, and there were various errors in the event viewer relating to that, showing you that there were NTFS issues with certain blobs on the data storage area. And so what I had to do was I had to run check disk to repair those. So I had to stop the node completely. I had to make sure that the original iSCSI initiator setup that I had on the old PC had been fully deactivated, removed, because it is also possible that for a NAS system, iSCSI system, you can corrupt the file system by having more than one host talking to it at the same time, and I was concerned that had been the cause. I believe you have to have some specialist hardware in your network to deal with the filtering of multiple host requests to a NAS that is set up in the iSCSI manner. Obviously I don't have that, and that may have been the cause of my file corruption, but it was very easily rectified. CheckDisk is a fantastic program. Once again, from an elevated command window or PowerShell window, I just ran chk dsk with a /f and then the name of the mapped drive that I wanted to repair. It took about an hour over my NAS system, which had just over 1 terabyte of data on it at the time, but it identified everything and rectified everything, and so far the event log has been free, and every time it's looked at the disk it's reported that it's healthy. So that sorted my problem out there, but obviously before you run CheckDisk you need to make sure your storage node is off, so net stop storage node to kill everything on there, and you can net start storage node afterwards. Do not stop or attempt to stop CheckDisk in any manner. Let it run to completion. If you do, it corrupts the file system even more, and it's even worse and harder to recover from. So let it go through to completion if you've started it. Okay, so I know that's been a whistle stop tour. That's better. Bit of a tongue twister, isn't it? But that's my experience of the Windows node migration. Touch wood, all things are going well at the moment. What I am finding is, because I had significant downtime due to issues with the new PC, it didn't look like it had sufficient memory. It only had 4 gig of memory in it. I've since upgraded it to 8 gig and it seems to be a lot happier. I did have some locking up while I had these other issues to sort out, which meant I had to reboot the machine, which meant it corrupted the file system, which meant sorting it out. But it's recovering. I've lost a little bit of online percentage for the 4 satellites on the Node software, but they're gradually creeping back up. One did go into the red, the EU server, unfortunately, which means I think I've been suspended, and I've now got to wait, I think, for the next 30-day period for that to recover, but that is creeping up slowly. So let's hope that gets back up to scratch. But hopefully all of this will be done and the thing will be up and performing by the end of the month, end of October, and I'll be able to give you a monthly report of what that first month's been, although it won't be a true reflection because of the incidents I've had. But anyway, that's it. That's all I have to show you today. I hope that's been of use, been informative. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to hit the bell notification icon so you know when I put up my next video, which will be STORJ related or something else, who knows. I have got a machine earmarked to do a TrueNAS installation on, with local hard disks, to see how that installation goes. So that might be a future video coming up as well, so make sure you're ready to find out about that. But for now, I'll say goodbye.